What's up everyone, my name is Mark Hawk and today we're doing a quick look of DJI's new Phantom 3 Professional Edition. Now this is the 4K edition and we're going to be taking a quick look at it from three different camera angles. We got this one over here, this one over here, and this one over here. So let's just jump right into this box. So there's a few different versions of the Phantom 3 out. There's the Advanced, which is basically their 1080p version, and then the Professional, which offers us a little more in terms of image quality. That gives us the option to do 4K. Now there are two different versions of the 4K. You can do 4096 by 2160 if you're filming at 24 or 25 frames per second, and if you're filming at 30 frames a second, you're limited to doing 3840 by 2160p. So we'll start by taking this guy out here. There's a lot of detail we can go over here. We're kind of going to do multi-part videos, so we'll just keep going deeper and deeper as we go into this. But this is the new 4K action camera. It can actually do up to 1080p 60 frames a second, or 4K at 24, 25, or 30 frames a second. There is no 120 frames a second option. And as it is right now, this camera is locked into the Phantom 3 Professional Edition until there's at a point where we can swap out this gimbal. But the thing that makes this gimbal very appealing is it has the built-in light bridge. Now, if you're not familiar with what light bridge is, it's basically, think of it as a miniature version of what news helicopters use to send an HD signal down to satellites. So what we're going to use this for is to send an HD signal at 30 frames a second at 720p down to our smartphones or our iPads or sort of Android tablets connected right to the remote. So having this in the gimbal, super important, and also makes it super unlikely that we'll basically be able to quickly and easily throw another maybe Zenmuse mount on here. So for now, we have the first party mount. We have improved motors over the last time. So we'll have more efficient motors, and even though they're more powerful, they're more efficient, so the battery life is a little better. If you're familiar with the Phantom 2, the battery is going to look identical, but we have some added weight and more efficient motors. And the reason why we're getting more battery life is these motors are able to use the energy they're given a little smarter, and that makes things last a little longer. So again, the Phantom 2 batteries will not work in the Phantom 3, and the Phantom 3 batteries will not work in the Phantom 2, unfortunately. They don't usually come fully charged, but I opened this up just to charge it, that way we can take it out tomorrow. So we'll put this back in here, snaps back in the same way the last one did. Get the nice little click, it'll show your battery level on the back. Pretty self-explanatory. You can tap here to see your battery level. Again, if you want to power this on, you'll press it twice. So you'll press it once, and then press and hold again to power on. You get a little beep cycle, but we'll go through that later. Light bridge on there. We got our USB port here on the side for updating firmware and stuff like that. And then we have our micro USB port here. Actually, no, I'm sorry. This is for updating the firmware here. It actually comes with a 16 gigabyte micro SD card, which is pretty cool, and it looks like it's a Lexar card, which is fantastic. I love the Lexar cards. The 633X is what I would have recommended. I usually like to go with the XC formatted card, but you'll only need a UHS1 card for this guy to get maximum performance. However, if you really want to go the extra mile, get yourself a 64 gigabyte XC formatted card, UH3. This camera has a bitrate of 60 megabits a second, so the faster micro SD card you get, the better results you're going to get. You don't have to go too crazy. Again, I really prefer the Lexar ones. If you get their 64 gigabyte version, it's XC, has a really fast write time as well as a read time, but the write time is what's most important. So we have slightly wider legs than what we had last time around, which is the only complication you might have if you have previous mounts. I mean, not mounts, backpacks or cases to store it in, that these legs are slightly wider than the last one, but with some slight modifications with your last bag, you should be able to just fit in there just nicely. Dude, this thing looks really sleek. We have our gold trim sort of already put on here. I was kind of actually hoping to do something a little more creative with these. I'm assuming there's other stickers in here, but that is kind of not a huge concern of mine right now. On the front of this, we actually have the manual, the sticker on the front, which reads, read and understand the user manual and all other safety instructions before using this equipment. Couldn't be more true. Quadcopters and drones are super in the public eye. Don't be an idiot. Don't become a news story. Read through this, figure out the basics, read the manual, because, no joke, if you don't really know how to use this and operate this and keep up with some of the some of the minor and basic FAA regulations, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. There's a lot of other YouTube groups out there that will help take a lot of this work out of your hands and make it much easier for you to understand. There's also a few Reddit groups. Go to the more information section below this video. I'll put them in there, and I hope keep you guys safe. We'll keep each other safe, and you know, not do anything dumb. So quickly open this manual real quick just to take a brief look on what's inside. Again, we're going to be doing a lot of other videos that go over some of the specific details and stuff like this. I'll mention some of them right now, such as the camera is going to have a 4000 by 3000 resolution, similar to the GoPro Hero line of cameras. So you have that 4x3. One of the big differences, though, is that it shoots actual raw photography. So I think it's a Adobe DNJ file raw photos. So your GoPro Hero would normally shoot what is called like ProTune raw photos, where it basically doesn't apply the GoPro color grade. So hopefully these photos, being official Adobe DNJ formatted images, will offer a lot more range in our whites and blacks and stuff like that. And we got a few manuals here. We got a bunch of Spiff stickers here. They're all kind of chromed out: silver, purple, red, oh, pink. So yeah, you got like 5 or 6 different colors here to choose from. I'm not seeing a blue, but we got purple and pink, so there's a lot of different diversity to kind of identify yourself. And of course there's a lot of companies out there where you can get custom stickers and stuff like that. So we're going to put this off to the side. Again, read the manuals. Don't become a news story. None of us want that. Alright, so let's get everything out of this box here. We'll put it off to the side and get the box out of the way, get nice and zoomed in on everything. So move this. Actually, you guys should see all this. Got some extra parts here, nothing else here. This is our charger that'll charge both the remote and the quadcopter's batteries, and this is our accessories kit. And then there's nothing else inside this box. Double check. Of course not. Why would they put anything under the egg carton? So move this off to the side. Put all this down here. So we'll open this up just so I can get it out of the way and show you guys. These are the new universal charger, and when I say universal, I basically mean it's a dual charger, because it can charge both the remote and the battery in the quadcopter. To charge the battery, you'll take it out of here. It has this little box here that it sort of opens up like this. Plug it in, and you can let it charge. Now when I'm charging my batteries, I go a step further with keeping things safe, and I actually use a LiPo guard. Basically, you put the battery in here and charge it. If you live in an apartment or something like that, or somewhere where you don't really have a garage, or even if you do have a garage, you know, you put the battery in here, put the charger, and if for some reason your battery is ill-maintained and decides to catch fire, it'll stay contained in this bag, and it'll help avoid the risk of burning your entire house down. So consider these. They're a few bucks online, really easy to get. You get them on Amazon. That's where I got mine. So again, you plug it in. That's how you charge a battery. Now, if you got the Professional Edition, you're going to actually have a 100-watt charger, which should save you some time in charging your battery. And then if you got the Advanced Edition, I think it's a 52 or 53-watt charger. So the Professional can give you a slightly faster charge. And you're not supposed to charge the remote and the quadcopter at the same time. That's ill-advised. So make sure you charge all your batteries, and in the few occasions where you're going to need to charge your remote, you know, do that by itself. Don't do it at the same time. And then we also have our little micro USB cable to USB right here. So put that out of the way. Again, we have our battery. It doesn't come fully charged, and there actually, I believe, are firmware updates for these batteries. They're sort of smart batteries. There's a whole method to updating your camera. We'll do a whole separate video, or I'll link you to someone who's done a better job than me for how to update this camera and update this quadcopter. Because you're going to have to update a lot, because there are just certain things that get updated in the camera that will actually prevent you from flying, it seems like, if I understand other videos correctly, but I could be wrong on that. But just keep in mind, if you're getting the Professional Edition, be prepared to upgrade. But if you're going for the higher end camera, that shouldn't probably come as a surprise to you. You're probably going to want to upgrade every now and then. So put the battery on right now, just keep things a little lighter. So speaking of weight, with the propellers and the battery, you're looking at 1,280 grams. So it's a little, I think it's actually a little lighter than, no, it's a little heavier than last year's model. Here we have some accessories, like some sort of anti-vibration, little bubble things, a little wrench tool, some little plastic screws and stuff like that, and some sort of rubber dampeners. Nothing too exciting. There's a bunch of little parts in there. The rest of this box is empty. Alright, so in here we should have our propellers. We're going to get, I believe, 2 sets of 4. Now, each of these sets of blades are color-coded. That way, when you're attaching them to the top of your quadcopter, you can't really mess it up. And they're self-tightening screws. So basically, as you spin them, they're automatically going to tighten themselves up. They each have this little plastic cover on them, so let's remove one of them. There's actually a little pull tab you could use right here. Just pull this off. It's a little hard to see and it might break, but it should just get this plastic right off of it right away. Now you notice here we have black screws and then we have silver screws. So what we're going to do is we're going to line up the color with the top of the head here. Take this little sticker off. It'll give you a little idea on how it works. And spin it counterclockwise for black, automatically tightens, so you can pull it here, and then you can use your wrench to kind of secure it on there a little more. And that's it, it's good to go. As it spins, it'll tighten itself even more, but for the most part, as long as it's nice and tight and not loose here, you're good to go. So when operating the Phantom 3, your camera is actually going to give you a live feed to your controller here, and you can actually see the live feed while you're recording video. You'll have full control over the camera itself, so you'll have shutter control. You don't have to start and stop it when it's on the ground. You can actually do it in the air. So instead of ending up with a 20-minute video, you can get the shots you need, land it, and be done. And also when you're taking photos and you want to switch to video, you can switch between the 2 modes. You can switch between the different types of formats that you want, all without losing a video signal. So when you're taking photos, when you're doing burst photography, when you're doing time-lapse, which is all programmed in here, you can actually change the bracketing and stuff like that. So you can take HDRs, I believe that's what we would change our bracketing for. That's what I use it on my digital SLR for. So you can actually do that all in real time from the camera without losing video signal, which is great. You're flying, you can take a photo and not lose visuals. Now the camera is going to have a 94-degree field of view. Unfortunately, there are no field of view options. Some people might not see this as a downside. It's just, why would you want to go wide? And my counter argument would be, why can't I just have the option to go wide? I like filming in wide, not everybody does. There's also kind of a lacking of frame rate options. Pretty much you're juggling between 60 and 30 or variants of 30 if you want to go to 24 or 25. But for the most part, you're kind of stuck at those resolutions, and I'm sorry, those frame rates. And you do have 1080p and 720p. 720p doesn't get you any faster frame rates or different field of view options, so unless you're short on space, maybe keep it at 1080p, 60 frames a second. Now, the Phantom 3 can connect to more satellites and it can connect to them faster, so we're going to have more accurate sort of flying, and we have a lot more controls with the controller here when we want to fly home, if we want to get an accurate position, if we want to fly straight. It should help connecting it and keeping it sort of safe and secure. We can also use the app to program flight paths and stuff like that. You can actually do that on both the Professional and the Advanced. Alright, so we're going to get into the remote, which is the most exciting part for me because it's actually mimicking the new DJI Inspire remote. Now, the Phantom will only be able to connect to one remote at a time. At least that's what Phantom is according to. I don't know if that's something that will change later on, but one of the big features with the Inspire 1 is that you can actually have multiple people controlling one drone at a time. So you can have one person controlling the drone, and then you can have another person controlling the camera itself. So that's actually a really cool feature. It's actually one of the more desirable features for me for the Inspire 1, but we don't have that on this one, so we can only use one controller. It also means we can't really have like a tutor mode where somebody's helping you fly and stuff like that and teaching you how to fly the Phantom. Now the Phantom's fairly easy to fly, however I do suggest picking up a smaller quadcopter from Amazon and taking a month really to get used to flying one of these manual control quadcopters, because once you master that, flying this thing is kind of a breeze. Getting this plastic off, taking a little longer than I thought, but the controller is a much nicer quality than what we're used to with the Phantom 2. The Phantom 2 was a very bulky, very fat plastic feeling. This is really nice. It's got a good weight to it. It's got really good grips on the side, customizable buttons on the back here. So these are those customizable buttons I was talking about. We can actually program whatever modes we want into them. Now this is the mount that's going to hold our phone. Now it can actually fit something as big as an iPad Air, iPad Air 2, or an iPad Mini. And if you're having problems extending this, it's because there's a little bit of plastic on the back that you're going to have to remove. So just get rid of that. This thing can have a lot of plastic, just double check you've gotten rid of all of it. And then this will extend all the way out to fit an iPad Air. And again, we're going to be getting a 720p signal at 30 frames a second down from the aircraft into this with very low latency. So imagine having a nice iPad screen here. You don't need to really figure out the complicatedness of figuring out your own type of HD signal down to your drone with complicated mechanics. Everything is built in right out of the box and you're good to go. We have our triggers here, just like before. If you're familiar with Phantom 2, they feel exactly the same, but there's probably some minor differences. We have better antennas here. So looking at the remote here, we have a few different buttons, camera controls and stuff like that for the tilt, start and stopping and recording, our different flight modes that we can choose from. It's a play button. I'm not too sure what this button does. Again, this is just kind of our initial impressions. We'll get into some stuff later. This is, I believe, how we can charge it. So it's got a built-in battery, so we can't swap things out. So we might want to get a battery backup for the controller, but I'm sure it'll last quite a long time. But just as an oh crap type of situation. We have our go home button and we have our power button. And that's pretty much it. I think it feels super good. It feels so nice compared to the last gen model. We also have we have a USB port. Is that HDMI? That's USB. And then another USB. This could also be used to probably charge the controller. So if you have a universal battery backup, you can probably just plug it into any of these guys. But we'll test that out later. Again, we're going to do a lot of different videos. There's a lot here to cover. Just trying to go over some of the broader basics. So now that we have this, oh man, this remote feels so much better than the last controller. Even better than the upgraded Phantom 2 controller. It's got like the rotation dial and stuff up here. Having the record button right here is going to be great. Flight modes right here. Having a dedicated oh crap home button will make me feel good. The home button is basically, if you calibrate it right when you take off, it'll use the satellites that it connects to land in the exact pretty much close to the exact place it took off from. So for some reason, if communication between this and the drone ceases, it'll come home. If for some reason you lose visual range of it and you need it to come home, it'll actually fly up to a certain height, come back down and land. It's all very smart. It's all designed to keep things safe. Some of the new updates with the satellites will also prevent it from going into restricted areas such as airports or military bases, and it just helps keep things a little safe. There's no threat detection on this thing, so it will collide into objects if it sees them, but the one area where it does have threat detection in some regard is the bottom here. So let me just adjust these cameras so we can see it. So these guys right here are going to basically measure the depth it's going to be able to detect the ground. So if you don't have a satellite signal, if you're filming inside, for me, if I'm filming inside like a studio or something like that, this is going to see the ground, and when it can't connect to the satellite, it's going to help it keep it a lot stable. Now, if you film with the Phantom 2 and been like, oh, I can fly indoors, you can run into a lot of issues indoors. You can have sort of drifting, you can have sort of bad responsive controls, and the whole thing can get away from you because you might be used to flying in sort of automatic modes. This tries to help take the place of the satellites, and though it shouldn't be like the only reliable thing you do, it definitely will help keep it stable indoors and stuff like that. So if you want to do indoor events, these guys are going to be great. It's one of the bigger additions to this guy, and it's going to be on both, again, the advanced and the professional model, but it's one of the big selling points and one of the big upgrades over the Phantom 2 is the ability to fly indoors and fly indoors relatively safe. So to cover any remaining questions we might have here, with photos we can take JPEGs and DNGs. For video we can do MP4 or .MOVs. 60 megabits a second in terms of quality. We could do 4K at 4096 by 2160 if we're at 24 frames or 25 frames a second, but if we increase it to 30 frames a second, we're limited to shooting in 3840 by 2160. And of course we can have that at 24 or 25 frames a second as well if we want to keep things consistent. So if we're filming at 60 frames a second, we can actually do 720p or 1080p. Unfortunately, that is not available. The gimbal itself is a 3-axis gimbal, unlike the Phantom 2's initial gimbal, which was only 2, and then later you could upgrade to the 3-axis gimbal. So we have a 94-degree field of view on the camera. That's a 20mm lens, and we are using a Sony EX image sensor in this guy. So a Sony image sensor, same as the GoPro, same as the Sony action camera image sensors you guys are already used to. In terms of still photography mode, we have burst, we have single shot, we have auto exposure, bracketing, time lapse, and that can all be done at 4000 by 3000, a 4:3 aspect ratio that you can crop down in JPEG or DNG. Battery life wise, you're going to get about 23 minutes, and you're going to actually have indicators this time around in both the controller and the app itself to let you know when it's time to bring it home, as well as light indicators on the front and back here. The fronts will light up green and the reds will light up back, similar to a car. If you think car lights, you want the red lights facing you. If you spin it around and you see green lights, all of your controls are going to be inverted. But since this time we'll be filming with the FPV, a lot of times that'll be good because we won't ever get inverted. Again, another safety feature that's nice to have. We have this little USB port here, which can be used to update. This is how we used to update the firmware. However, this time around, we can do a lot of that through the micro SD card slot here. Operating frequency is 2.4 gigahertz or 2.483. Anyway, I think that's a good first wrap-up of what's everything in the box, some of the basic features. Now we're going to test out how they actually work in the field. We're going to go on how to set this thing up, how to take off, how to do some first initial tests. So just stick with us. We're going to learn how to do this. I'm really interested to see how this camera works out. I'm going to try and build a rig so we can test it up against some other action cameras, since it is one of the few 4K cameras out there, and supposedly it has some really nice options, so we'll figure out something for that. But yeah, let's get out there. Let's go check it out. And I hope you guys will join me. So, let's get out there.